Hare Krishna. We'll start in about 2 minutes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Ram, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. All right. Welcome everyone. Our ongoing journey of self-realization based on the Bhagavad Gita as it is, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, our beloved founder, Acharya, Savior, Divine Grace, friend, and master. As usual, whoops, supposed to be recording this, aren't we? We are. So, as usual, please immerse yourself fully in the sound vibration of the pure Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound emanating from the lotus lips of His Divine Grace, the pure devotee Mahabhagavat. And let everything else go. Let this be everything, like immersing yourself fully in a warm bath of nectar.
Krishna Chaitanya Deva Sri Dasa Krishna Bhagavan Bhagavan Lita Sri Tapan Nitanshya Sri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavando Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kantya Radha Namaste Bhaktavan Janagaudangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Bhagavan Murtidevji Pranamami Haripriya Panchakalpatalubhasya Kripasindhubhayevata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Introduction to Gita Upanishad by A.C. Bhakti Swami, the author
Hare
of
Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Let's turn this off so there's no chance of distraction. So we'll chant Jai Radha Madhava briefly. We'll go into the full Sanskrit word meanings, translation, and purport. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astatara Satvashri Shrimad His Divine Grace Avai Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astatara Satvashri Shrimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Gorkashoras Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Guru Parampara Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adigora Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna. Gopi Gopinath, Shama Kunda, Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrndavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Dwarka Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Subhadran Baladev Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Giridhari Ki Jai. Shri Janmastami and Shri Vyasa Puja coming up next month. Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Kantraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Rama. Welcome again, everyone. And please share who you are, if you really know, and where you are, and what you would like to get today from this discussion. And if I can be so bold, I'm going to put in the invitation for Zoom, just in case you'd like to be more connected, more involved, because I'd like to hear from you, your thoughts, your realizations, your questions. So there, now you have the link. So please join us on Zoom. Now, why is it saying Jai Sheila? Because it's supposed to say Atmananda. I put that in already. Naughty, naughty. Okay, how's that look? Is that going to stay? Is that going to make it me, or is it going to make it the last class? Let's see. Okay, that looks better. More real. Okay, so we'll go into the Sanskrit. Hopefully you have a Bhagavad Gita with you. If you don't, please repeat after me as best you can anyway. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 2, Contents of the Gita summarized, text number 18. Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirina. Listen carefully and repeat the best you can. Anashino prameyasya tasmad yujhas vabharata. Repeat after me also. Antavanta, perishable. Ime, all these. Deha, material bodies. Nityasya, eternal in existence. Ukta, it is so said. Sharirina, the embodied souls. Anasina, never to be destroyed. Apremasya, aprameyasya, immeasurable. Tasmat, therefore. Yujyasva, fight. Bharata, O descendant of Bharat. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Please repeat after me. Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Purport. The material body is perishable by nature. It may perish immediately, or it may do so after 100 years. It is a question of time only. There is no chance of maintaining it indefinitely, but the spirit soul is so minute that it cannot even be seen by an enemy, to say nothing of being killed. As mentioned in the previous verse, it is so small that no one can have any idea how to measure its dimension. So from both viewpoints, there is no cause of lamentation, because the living entity can neither be killed as he is, nor can the material body, which cannot be saved for any length of time, be permanently protected. The minute particle of the whole spirit acquires this material body according to his work, and therefore observance of religious principles should be utilized. Therefore, observance of religious principles should be utilized. In the Vedanta Sutra, the living entity is qualified as light because he is part and parcel of the Supreme Light. In the Vedanta Sutras, the living entity is qualified as light because he is part and parcel of the Supreme Light. As sunlight maintains the entire universe, so the light of the soul maintains this material body. As soon as the spirit soul is out of this material body, the body begins to decompose. Therefore, it is the spirit soul which maintains this body. The body itself is unimportant. Arjuna was advised to fight and sacrifice the material body for the cause of religion. For the cause of religion. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharne Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatadi Satarne Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Krishna, he is doing many things with Arjuna. He is giving him knowledge which defeats any other knowledge. Any other knowledge. These days, people are so proud of their advancement, knowledge, awareness of how to adjust this world. And what's the result? Hell. So being very proud of any particular knowledge, if the result of peacefulness, happiness, joy, compassion, detachment, satisfaction, sustainable satisfaction, joy, happiness, compassion, generosity, chivalry, courage, power, influence, humility, patience. All these qualities develop when one has real knowledge. And when one doesn't have real knowledge, all these qualities, they dissipate, evaporate, disappear. Even though, as Krishna is establishing beyond any question here in this second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, contents of the Gita summarized, those qualities are there, always dormant, we might say, because the soul is full of those qualities. We are those qualities. Those are qualities of us. And Krishna is speaking to us. He and Arjuna arranged to have this scene, this actual scene set up right there on the present place, the historic site of pilgrimage, Kurukshetra in India, Bharatvarsh. You can go see it now. And the earth is red, still red, because of the millions of soldiers, warriors, and animals, horses, elephants. All the living entities were killed there. Excuse me. And so Krishna is establishing true knowledge, and he says he leads Arjuna into it. First of all, he listens to Arjuna. He sets up the scene for Arjuna to listen to him. As Prabhupada says, when we're speaking to intelligent people, specifically, there was a situation where devotees were asking him about preaching in universities. Prabhupada said, first, you listen to these people. They're intelligent. Now, whether they have spiritual knowledge or not isn't the first thing Prabhupada considered. They may be fools, and yet Prabhupada quotes Chanakya Pandit. You can take knowledge from a fool. Not that we're taking knowledge from these people. The point is, we can listen to them. Why? So that when they have felt our presence with them, they are listening to them, honoring whatever they believe, whether it's valid or not. We honor them by listening to them, whatever they say, even crazy things. And we don't listen to crazy people, but in one sense, everyone is crazy. So intelligent people in this world, they think they have something valuable to say. So if we listen to them, then Prabhupada says they will listen to us. They'll be more inclined to listen to us. It's not a one-way street. Preaching is not a one-way street. Preaching is about establishing a relationship, so that as Krishna has done with Arjuna, he listens to Arjuna through all his crazy proposals, avoiding in any way possible surrendering to Krishna, anything but. So this is exactly our own situation. We're eager to do. We're attached, and our tendency is to be eager to do anything except except surrender to Krishna. What does Lord Chaitanya say? The first two principles of Lord Chaitanya's principles of surrender are what? Accept everything that's favorable for service to Krishna, and reject anything that's unfavorable. So we have a mind which is completely determined, committed, immersed in, sold out to anything except Krishna, especially, or mainly, if not solely, something that will gratify our sense. The mind is that is the function of the mind. Accepting things which are favorable to our surrender to our sense gratification and rejecting things which aren't. So it's diametrically opposed. So that's why Prabhupada says again and again and again, first control the mind and senses. And actually, because the mind is the center of all the senses, you control the mind and you're pretty much there. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, here in this Bhagavad Gita, for one who has controlled the mind, the super soul is already reached. When it's already come to the Brahma Bhuta platform, in which all those qualities, peacefulness, satisfaction, joy, genuine humility, a mood of service, real love for Krishna and all his parts and parcels, starting with myself. That's where Krishna starts with Arjuna. So Krishna is bringing Arjuna with knowledge to the point of rejecting all those arguments that he gave before, all the excuses not to surrender, but just to go to the forest and not fight, not serve Krishna according to Krishna's desire. Arjuna was manifesting so many of his own desires, and we have all our own desires. We have so many unlimited desires, wishes, which in our conditioned state are not in line with what Krishna wants. So Arjuna was the same. We are exactly the same as, and Krishna is speaking to us. So he's bringing Arjuna to that point. And Prabhupada says very clearly that there is no chance of maintaining the body, material body, indefinitely. So with academic, intellectual understanding, Krishna is giving example, the proof, evidence that what Arjuna has been proposing is complete rubbish, complete nonsense. So we can take the same, that if we, the more we accept and understand and realize Bhagavad Gita, this chapter, the more we can put everything else put all our past excuses, proposals, arguments in the bin. Prabhupada says, when we preach, what do? Oh, my dear sir, you're so intelligent, so wise and learned. Please forget everything you've ever learned. Look at this. Please forget. Look at this book. At least let them touch it, even if they give it back. Put it in their hand, because we know even if they don't take it or accept it, they've touched Krishna. The book. It's a book, Bhagavad, the deity. Prabhupada wanted to have a set of Bhagavatams in every house in the world on their shelf, because if nothing else, they have the deity there. That the Bhagavatam, the transcendental literature, is the deity, worshipable. You can put these books on your altar and worship them, if nothing else. Prabhupada gives us that guidance. So we can reject everything, put it in the bin. Mind comes up, boom, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's how we put everything in the bin, because we have something better. We take on something better, and we also beat the mind. We use all our faculties, all the thinking, the feeling, and the willing, all for establishing only Krishna. And Prabhupada defeats the materialists. He says, the spirit soul is so minute that it cannot even be seen by an enemy, to say nothing of being killed. So it can't even be seen. As mentioned in the previous verse, it is so small that no one can have any idea how to measure its dimension. So scientists, they're supposed they're supposed to investigate, discover more and more deeply, more and more subtly. So, unfortunately, even if they try to even if they want to measure it, the dimension of the soul, that is, it's so small that they don't even have any idea how to do it. Of course, generally, as material consciousness advances, especially in this Kali Yuga, people would rather not even accept that whatever it is, the spiritual spark. They'd rather deny it. And because they can't see it, that's a good excuse. Oh, can't see it, can't measure it, must not exist. Yeah, we can dispense with that. Of course, there are some or many, I don't know, I haven't counted or done the research, the statistics, how many intelligent philosophers of science who do consider and accept, at least in theory, the existence of the soul, especially if they're reading Bhagavad Gita. And more people are becoming attracted to reading Bhagavad Gita as it is, and getting real knowledge. A really intelligent person is humble. They understand that the more but the more they understand, more I understand, the more I realize I don't understand. That's real honesty, and that's real humility. Those qualities develop. And Prabhupada rails against the Mayavadis, the impersonalists. At the same time, he says that if an impersonalist isn't offensive, doesn't make offenses, they can become devotees, even pure devotees. Look at Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So when Lord Chaitanya was traveling in South India, not in South India, when he was on his way to Vrndavan, this is described in the Madhya Lila, the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 17. The Lord travels to Vrndavan, and he went to Benares. He went to Varanasi, also called Kashi, yeah, and which is a place of pilgrimage. But when he got there, one local Brahmin, who was actually a devotee, went to tell one senior, highly respected Mayavad sannyasi, Prakashananda Saraswati, about Lord Chaitanya. And what did this sannyasi say? Oh, yes, I've heard about this Chaitanya. He's simply singing and dancing with sentimentalists. He doesn't study Vedanta Sutra. He should come and learn Vedanta Sutra, and then he'll be able to understand. He's just misleading people with a bunch of sentimental so-called religionists. He doesn't understand. So he was offending Lord Chaitanya, and the local Brahmin was very disturbed. So he left there, hearing that, and he went to Lord Chaitanya and said, "They're talking to you about you like this." And he asked Lord Chaitanya, why can't they chant Hare Krishna? Sometimes they say Chaitanya, or they say Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. They appear to have some knowledge. They use these, but they won't say Hare Krishna. They won't chant. And this Brahmin asked Lord Chaitanya, why won't these impersonalists chant your holy names? And Lord Chaitanya said, because they're offenders. They're offenders. They can't chant. And Prabhupada, and he said, then later on, Lord Chaitanya said, I have brought this great treasure Krishna prema, of Krishna consciousness, Krishna prema, here with me, and I'm selling it. It's the most valuable commodity. But here I find no takers, no customers. No one wants to buy. And then he said, even if there's a little inclination, or they're willing to pay a small price, I will sell at a discount. I will do that. Because if I have to take it all home, it's a big, very large, heavy weight. Very large. So Lord Chaitanya wanted to give the holy names, and he was willing to compromise, so to speak. And Prabhupada says he likens his going to America, particularly New York City, the big rotten apple. And he never expected that people would take the Krishna consciousness. So he went on. He had kirtan and gave prasadam, and gradually many young people came to him, and Prabhupada likens it to the same situation. There weren't any really qualified candidates, but because these young people, maybe completely hippie impersonalists, weren't offended, didn't make offenses, whatever they believed or whatever la la land they were living in intoxication or whatever crazy hippie philosophy or my impersonal philosophy they had, everything being one or everything being love or whatever, or everything being nothing, Buddhist philosophy. Because they were did not make offenses, they were not offenders, they became qualified to have the highest gift. Prabhupada likens his situation going to America, where there were no apparent customers for Krishna consciousness, to Lord Chaitanya's being in Varanasi, Benares. So that's the difference between someone, a Mayavadi or an impersonalist who does not take to Krishna consciousness, and those who are eligible because whether they're offensive or not. Now, ultimately, we do know that Lord Chaitanya personally converted Prakashananda Saraswati and all of his thousands of followers. Now, that's Lord Chaitanya's potency. So he was presenting himself in both ways. He presented himself as being unable to give this commodity at the full price, to sell his commodity there in Benares at the full price, and later on manifesting his potency as the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead or Personality of Godhead with the full potency. And Prakashananda Saraswati eventually surrendered along with his thousands of followers. And that's a different point. So whatever people's philosophy is, we look for ways to bring them to Krishna consciousness. Now, another point Prabhupada makes here in the purport, that there's no lamentation. So from the spiritual point of view or the material point of view, there is no cause of lamentation because the living entity can neither be killed. The spiritual being, the spirit, we cannot be killed, and at the same time, the material body cannot be maintained. So from a detached point of view, neither viewpoints is a basis for lamentation. Now, if one's absorbed in the bodily consciousness, the fact that the body is perishable and is going to self-destruct only as a matter of time. It's not if it's going to self-destruct. but when, if we're in the bodily consciousness. Now that reality is scary. And we can take that fear, being scared of death, being afraid of the pain, of the suffering, through the body, through the mind, through the other living entities, through the natural causes, the three types of suffering: adibhotic, adiatmic, suffering due to the body and mind; adibhotic, other living entities, mosquitoes, snakes, not in this country, not in New Zealand. Other people insulting us, or attacking us, or robbing us, rejecting us, criticizing us, whatever. And adidaivic, the suffering coming from the level of the demigods, natural causes, storms, pestilence, famine, too hot, too cold. If we're overly avoiding of those, hateful or afraid of those, then that can also be helpful. We see that that's not what we want. It's a dangerous, it's a fearful, it's a painful situation. So let's take that and reverse it. But from a detached point of view, whether we take the material perspective or the spiritual perspective, there's no causal limitation. So Krishna is calling Arjuna to come up to this detached level of reality by explaining to him that in this chapter, he is successively the non-permanent appearance and the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer season. They arise from sense perception. They're not real. They arise from our perception of them. In the winter, the fan creates discomfort. In the hot summer, the same air is creating comfort, cooling. In the winter, we want heating. In so many ways, Krishna is bringing Arjuna to the point of understanding. At the same time, well, I wanted to say that, make the point that Vyasadeva says, that distinguishing the highest welfare, or the highest truth rather, Vyasadeva says, the highest truth is distinguishing reality from illusion for the welfare of all, which Krishna says in another way in the 16th verse of this chapter, 2 verses before. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent there is no endurance. So what is non-existent? Different angles Krishna is giving Arjuna. What is non-existent? Something that doesn't continue. The body. So in that sense, the body is non-existent because existent means which lasts forever. And of the existent, there is no cessation. There is no stopping. There is no change. There's no beginning, no end. That's the existent. That is called sata, the eternal. And asata, non-existent. Asata of the existent, of the non-existent, and sata of the eternal or existent. So Krishna is giving Arjuna from many, many different angles, understanding, knowledge, awareness of what is real. He makes the distinction between reality and illusion, the existent and the non-existent. So it's not so hard from that point of view. And when we consider it, just consider that, as Prabhupada says, this life is a dream. And the body and the mind are like pixels on the screen. So in that sense, the rejection of the material existence, as the Buddhists do, is valid. And that all the energy of the existent, it's all not different from itself, from any of the other. It's all one. So the impersonal philosophy also has some validity, but it's incomplete. And how is it that the Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of the Krishna is giving, is complete? Because Prabhupada says very clearly, knowing aham brahmasmi, knowing that I'm not my body, is not enough. It's true, it's valid, it's essential for, it's called the ABCs of spiritual life, but it's not enough. So Krishna is bringing Arjuna to a point of understanding intellectually, academically, more on the head level, so to speak, analytical level. At the same time, in this verse, what does Krishna say? Therefore, because the material body, only the material body is subject to destruction. Therefore, Arjuna, what do you do? He's calling Arjuna to action. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. So he's called right from the beginning, and throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight. Now, here in the beginning, he may not expect him to actually do that, but the same instruction is there. In the end, Sarvadam, surrender unto me, Arjuna. Do what I want you to do. You act for me. Give up everything else and just act for me. In another verse, fight for the sake of fighting, Arjuna. So even from the karmic or the activity point of view, fighting just for the sake of fighting. That's not the highest understanding, because fighting for Krishna, remember me and fight. So he's gradually bringing Arjuna to the higher and higher level to get him, to induce him to act. And Prabhupada says also that Krishna is inducing Arjuna to anger. So we want to bring out our emotions for Krishna. The hate of the material world, the resentment, the disappointment, the misery, the rejection, the suffering, the pain. We want to use that so-called negative energy. We want to transform it, use the energy of the resentment, the repulsion, or the attraction, either one. But Krishna is trying to bring Arjuna to the point of clearly understanding that you're a fool. You're speaking like a fool, rather. You're speaking like a fool. So we can take that ourselves. So what's happening here? All these verses are for us. Krishna is doing it for Arjuna. Arjuna didn't need it, but their motive was to give it to us. Krishna came to speak Bhagavad Gita for us. So Krishna is saying to you that your body is, only the body's going to die. You're not going to die. Therefore, you fight. Therefore, I call this discussion today, fight or die. Because from the spiritual point of view, if we don't act for Krishna, whether it's fighting or washing the dishes or taking care of the children or doing the work and bringing in the income for the family and paying the bills, or working in a factory or construction, whatever it is, distributing books, being a beekeeper, a cowherd, whatever you do it for Krishna. whether it's fighting, some may need to fight. Prabhupada said the Kshatriya inclined devotees can be trained to protect the deities, other devotees, etc. And excuse me. Point is, whatever you do, whatever your propensity is, and therefore Prabhupada says that the minute particle of the whole spirit acquires this material body according to his work. So according to our activity, our guna and karma makes up our nature and determines what social order we're in, whether we're Brahminically inclined, or Kshatriya inclined, or Vaishya inclined, or Shudra inclined. Therefore, observance of religious principles should be utilized. And I take that to mean Varnashram, following Varnashram as much as is practically possible, at least understanding our nature, our own nature. And that's one of the duties of the spiritual master, to understand the, the quality and tendency to work of a student, of a disciple, of a follower, and encourage him, train him or her how to act in that way for Krishna. And that's exactly what Krishna is doing here. He's training Arjuna. He's training us. We are Arjuna in that sense. Krishna is speaking to you and me. Understand this and therefore fight. So take it into action. We study philosophy. Why? To bring it to the point of going beyond Aham Brahmasmi. To take it to a level of what? Devotional service. According to the level of purity that we're at, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And coming back to fully giving our attention, listening to that and nothing else, just like immersing our sound, our whole being in hearing Prabhupada chant the Mangalacharana. We absorb our whole beings in hearing the holy names. Hearing the holy names. Please, I'll ask you again, send any questions or comments or realizations or doubts or challenges. How can you, what is the next step for you to increase your absorption in Krishna consciousness? In taking the philosophy into action. There's no limitation, only our own considerations, our own doubts, our own history, our own self-negation. Listening to the mind, oh, I'm not qualified, or I don't deserve, or Krishna can't love me because I'm not lovable. We know that's false. We can reject that. Why? Prabhupada came to the West, suffered so much for you and me. That's one of the many proofs. And here again, the more we practice, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So the more we practice, the more we struggle to do better, to at least to come back to the level we've been before and build on that. Become kutastha. Kutastha means to become steady. Generally, we're going up and down, up and down, up and down. And we want to become less up and down, up and up and down. We want to become steady, steadily progressing. We make the endeavor. We may slip up and we continue. We make the endeavor. We continue to struggle. And you know, I've said many times, when one devotee asked Prabhupada, "What makes you happy, Srila Prabhupada?" Prabhupada said, "I'm happy when I see you struggling." Did Prabhupada want us to suffer? No, that wasn't what he meant. He said he knew that the battle, if we fight the daily battle of life for Krishna, we will gain all prosperity, all realization, all knowledge, all power, all success, all realization, all intelligence, how to continue and become regularly, undeviatingly steady, nishta. If we don't become steady by giving up our offenses in our chanting and in our lives, it means we continue to give in to our old mentality, the old habit of accepting the dictations of the crazy enemy mind. So Krishna is calling us to action. Therefore I say, fight or die, because spiritually we die if we're not fighting. So fighting is glorious. Fighting for Krishna is glorious. Krishna wants us to fight, and he wants us to take the credit for being Krishna conscious and giving Krishna consciousness to others. To give Krishna consciousness to others. And because the only way to understand Krishna is by devotional services, whether it's chanting, serving, whatever way that you do in your life, whatever you do in your life, you make that devotional service. You think, if I'm going to the office, or I'm doing my business, or driving the Uber taxi, that is my service. And many of you, whatever you do, you give books, you give prasadam. I was invited to a karaoke party yesterday here in Vrndavan. A friend of the devotees who's studying Bhagavad Gita and sometimes chanting Hare Krishna, who comes to our programs also. She had a karaoke party. So, and she invited me, and I'm cultivating her. So I took, because we have our wonderful Saturday morning market prasadam stall, which is like the hub of the universe on Saturday morning. There's queues around the corner with hot, fresh cinnamon buns, samosas probably the most popular, 3 kinds of croissant, almond, plain, and what they call chocolate. It's actually carob, and phyllo pastries, and pizza boats, and apple turnovers, and hot chai. People love it. So and ladu. Buddhi Mata makes really nice ladu chunks. They sell them for $1 each. So I took a whole bunch of ladu and some samosas and some banana bread. They also make banana bread, really nice. So this way, this lady and her friends who come along for just for the karaoke, they get prasadam, they get purified. There was another devotee there who made some roasted vegetables, casserole. So these are all enlivening. To give people Krishna consciousness is the most blessed way to advance. And we maintain ourselves in the material world. We maintain the body. We don't reject it, even though apparently someone might say, oh, if I let the body die, or I neglect the body, then that's okay. And Prabhupada says very clearly that just because the soul is eternal and the body is unimportant, that does not justify murder, killing others unnecessarily, or to speak of animals. Well, I should say animals to satisfy the demands of the tongue, or to speak of other human beings. That's sinful. So we don't want to misinterpret, but that's another discussion. So at the end of the purport, Prabhupada says the body itself is unimportant. And we keep that in perspective because we don't neglect the body. We take care of the Prabhupada's stress, taking care of our health so that we can live longer, live as long as possible and do as much service as possible. It's not a justification for neglecting the body, or to speak of killing. The body itself is unimportant. Arjuna was advised to fight and sacrifice the material body for the cause of religion. So Arjuna came to the point of being willing to die, to sacrifice his own body for the cause of religion, real religion, bhakti yoga, devotional service. This is the highest, ultimate conclusion of religion. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nandara. One who engages in my devotional service, I forget the whole translation. He is. What is that? Yoginam api sarvesham. It's at the end of the 5th chapter, and is the highest of all. Nope. It's a different verse. A very important verse. So please put in any questions or comments on the chat. At least, let me have a comment. Amiyat Prabhu again. Thank you very much. Dandavats Prabhu, great points. Thank you. Could you say that Daivi Varnashram is based around hearing from Krishna and the pure devotee and applying the instructions? Yes. That's the goal. It's definitely based on that, because the Varnashram system is meant to elevate human society gradually to the point of pure devotion. And in Lord Chaitanya's age, such Kali Yuga, hearing and chanting, hearing from Krishna and the pure devotee, but yes, hearing and chanting and applying those instructions, absolutely. Maybe that's the essential definition. Yes, good point. Excellent. Thank you very much for your participation and your contribution. Yoginam api sarvesham. I'm going a little over time. Anyone who wants to stay can do so. I'm just going to find this most essential verse. The highest, 647, chapter 6, verse 47. Yoginam api sarvesham madkate nantaratmana shadavam bhajate yomam, is it? Shadavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo maha. Same yukta tamo mata. Translation. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. And is the highest of all. So we are fully qualified and capable of being fully, intimately united with Krishna and being the highest, coming to that level of the highest level, highest of all. That is the ultimate conclusion and purpose of yoga. So we fight for Krishna every day by controlling the mind and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And seeing how we can advance and adjust our lives, every aspect of our lives, especially thinking, feeling, willing in Krishna consciousness, using all our emotional energies. Krishna is calling Arjuna to go beyond the intellectual, go beyond the arguments, and use his full energy, his anger, his fear, his desire, his love, whatever it is. If we hate the material energy, and we hate suffering, yes, use that energy, turn it around, like in martial arts. When an enemy comes towards you, you don't counter. You use the energy of the opponent to throw him against the wall or whatever. So we take that so-called negative material energy and we find ways to use it for Krishna. Everything can be used for Krishna. Go beyond the thinking, feeling, and willing to action. Therefore, fight. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for your attention. Please put any comments in further. That you'd like. Say Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.